So it is OBS for some reason. So you hit your SPL meter button here, and that's going to bring up this little box, and this is just telling us exactly how loud it is at that microphone currently. So I'm going to hit play there. Maybe. Turn it up. So the louder it gets, the higher the number goes, of course. Pretty self-explanatory. It was decided by leadership, and this will be something that, yeah, you're good. As kind of you guys are deciding how loud you want to be and things like that, that you want to be around 85 for worship.
Yeah,
and
target 85, but
68 for speech. So something else we can do with this program that's really powerful is if you hit this logger button right here, it's going to bring up another new window for us. And if we hit start, it's going to start now recording how loud it is. And it's going to give us some important metrics that we can kind of look at. So I'm going to scroll. So we're going to have 4 or 5 different metrics here that will start appearing once it starts going a little bit longer. There's going to be a black line. That's going to be kind of the instantaneous, how loud it is. So we'll zoom in like this so we can see it. There we go. So this black line down here is going to be instantaneous, how loud it is. And then there's going to be a red line. The red line is going to be the 1 minute average. And that's the number that we're wanting to keep around the 85 mark.
yeah, because it's not fair to expect it to stay at 85 at all times. You're not going to be adjusting the volume constantly.
And that's just impossible. With as dynamic as music is, it just is unreasonable to say.
Yeah, so our peaks will go up to 92, 90 or whatever, but the average on the 1 minute that you'll find there will be 85.
So you can kind of watch this number. As long as you're sticking around 85, you should be good. So then we have this kind of pinkish line. That's going to be the 10-minute average. And then we have this very bottom one. It's kind of an orange. That's going to be the peak volume. Then this very first one is going to be the overall average from when we started.
How do you open your program that you
Yes.
Okay.
So we have this nice little window, and we can kind of look, and if you click around with the mouse, you can see, so the way this window works is quieter at the bottom, louder at the top, and then just time. But if you take the keyboard and you press Alt-R, and we can change that if we want to come up with something that's easier to remember. The program is called Room EQ Wizard, and so that's why I did R. It's the name of the program. And it's going to bring up this little window here, and this is going to grab, the very first one is, every time it updates is the volume, 1 minute average, 10-minute average, and then the average since we started with the record button.
Yes, that's a little helpful thing to not have to try to figure out your numbers on there exactly.
Yeah, so you can kind of just take a look over at your 1 minute average, and that's where during worship you're wanting that to live around the 85 mark. Is that making sense so far? Cool. It just takes a little bit of figuring out how to make it live there, but with practice, you can make it happen pretty easily.
So this is going to be the responsibility of the sound person to turn on every day, or every Sunday and Wednesday, so we can log that.
And then you have
but tech people can also help and remember the process and things.
And then you have to hit the record button before you open this window, before you do the Alt-R.
Yeah.
And then just another thing to note, I wrote this program, so it kind of glitchy, like you just saw. As it updates, it kind of flashes. That's purely just a visual thing that I haven't been able to figure out how to fix yet. Because I use this program when I mix places. I always track how loud it is. So that's just a visual thing. It's not harming anything, but it just, because of my limited experience of coding and programming, I just need to figure it out. So that's, I think, eventually going to be on this screen.
It is going to be on the other screen, yeah.
This is a touchscreen monitor, which is cool. This one is not. But the mouse is here, and the keyboard is right there for it.
There might be a slightly different place that we figure out, but we haven't figured it out yet.
good on that so far.
Okay, and then can you tell them like how would they save it? So we want you to save that information so
Yeah.
that if we get a ton of complaints, we can go back and review and make sure it was at 85. Not that, but just so we can say, hey, look, this person who's complaining, this is the volume we decided, and we check with the sound tech, and it is at 85. Here's the log, just in case that ever would happen. So can you show
And
them
you
how
know
to?
it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's great is, this protects whoever's running sound, if there is a complaint.
You just blame it on David.
As long as you're staying within, where leadership has asked you to, then you can say, hey, I'm doing what they are asking me to. So yeah, at the end of the service, you will click on the record button there, and then you have the option to hit save. It's going to bring up this window first. This would be a helpful place to put your name. So my name is Caleb. Then you hit OK. Then it's going to ask where do you want to save it on the computer. I have it on the desktop, this folder. As long as it doesn't move off
so
of
just
this,
leave it on
it's going to
that.
always go right to that same folder.
Yeah.
I saved the 2 Sunday services from today. Typically how I like to save mine for file management sake is year, period, month, period, day. So 2022,
So we'll just keep that.
period,
Yeah.
07, period, 31.
Yeah.
And then I did first SPL for sound pressure level, and then second SPL. And so then, like Will was saying, somebody today comes and is upset. You can open this window and then hit open, and then it's going to ask you where you want it. Say, somebody in first service. You can hit open, and it's going to bring up first service's record.
Yeah, and no, we've been mixing like this for 2 months now, and you haven't complained before,
Yeah.
so it's been the same, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because we want to protect, yeah.
So this is something that is really a really powerful tool. At the same time, this is not telling the full story. This is not going to tell you that the mix is like perfect or if the mix is terrible. This is just telling you a static number of how much air is moving. So utilize it as a tool and not as a crutch by any means. So like with all things, you can use a wrench as a hammer, but a hammer usually works better as a hammer. So just knowing how to use your tools is pretty helpful. And that's will just come as you use it more, kind of understanding it will be, just in time will come.
Okay.
So that's that. Then what I usually like to do is, we'll move to the board, and I like to start with, what do all these buttons do? That's kind of like where I like to start. I think some of you have had a chance to play with this board a little bit so far, so maybe this will be a little
Yeah,
bit.
so this would be a good time for us to come closer into the booth. And I'll just.
You can burn that.
And as you can see, we're a little short on volunteers. If you guys know anybody that we're going to be recruiting at the fair, the volunteer fair, but at this point we're pretty
When is the
short.
volunteer fair?
It's in about a month from now.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, okay.
I think it's
I did not know
the
that.
21st or 20. Yeah, 21st, I think. Don't call me on that, but I think it's 21st.
All right, so this is your new mixing console.
It's like the bigger, younger brother to the one that we used to have.
Yeah.
It's because it's not older, but
Yes.
it's just
More stuff.
it's just got more stuff. So it's like the youngest child that mama
More
spoiled.
versatile.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think this board is a little easier to get around than your other board for several reasons, which we can kind of touch on as we get going here. So we'll just start here. So these are going to be, like on your other board, your layer, what layer you want to see in this section. So that's pretty similar to your other board, and they're labeled. So you have 1 through 12, 13 through 24, which is the inputs, and then more inputs. What's cool is this is assignable to kind of whatever you want it to be. I
Slow
think-
down, Caleb. Just
Okay.
simpler.
Yes.
I don't know. I know that's.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we can put whatever we want here. So like right now we have channel 1, 2, 3, 4, and then channel 24 is right here. So a lot of this stuff will kind of be set up by Will or whomever. So if you need to get to things, you just have to know kind of where they're at. So the drums are on this second one, and there are all of our drum channels right here.
Right.
There also at the very bottom are 2 user layers. So this is going to be, I think, where Will is going to put kind of the primary things that you're going to need to get to on a consistent basis.
I apologize to everybody for being late.
No worries.
I apologize.
No worries. Glad you're here.
Okay.
So I think, have you set this up to kind of how you were
Yeah,
wanting it?
mostly.
Yeah, cool.
It might change slightly, but yeah. So user 1 and user 2, it's not. It's on. Can we change it from the alt?
Excuse me. Here you go.
I guess it didn't change much, but we have kind of so on user 1 we have our kick and snare because if we do end up start mixing the drums into the main mix. I was staying here because I think I might be in the camera. So on the user 1 on the first 2, yeah, is kind of our drums here. Then we have the computer, which is coming from this one. So that'll be if we ever play any videos or something. That's where the audio from the computer is going to be controlled. So you have your bass guitar keys, acoustic guitar, my guitar, second electric guitar if I'm playing. So that would be usually my dad. Here is where it starts getting a little more complicated.
Yeah.
DCA is also known as just a group. So think of it, this is a DCA of all of our tracks, which we'll go into more detail in a minute. But so this is kind of a group of something. So if you see a DCA, that's a group. So you have other DCAs. If you ever see a DCA, that's just a group of other channels that you can control the whole volume over. So yeah, so you have the 2 users, and on the other side we have a few of the other drums and all of the multi-tracks, which Caleb will tell us a little bit about, that are coming from the computer that you can also mix individually. So those are the 2 user channels I've set up currently, as well as over here you have access to like controlling the vocals as a group, controlling the instruments as a group instead of just individually. If you wanted to, like overall you want the instrument volumes to come up, you can just move this, or overall you need the drums to come down, you can just move that instead of individually going to each one. So that's all we've kind of done for the users so far, and we like it. I think, Joe, we like it. So that's what we've done.
Yeah, so a lot of it is just kind of learning where things are at on your new board. And yeah, so Will was talking about DCA. On the little screen right here, it does say up in the corner in white, it says DCA. And so like he was saying, that's going to be one fader to control a group of channels. Does that make any sense? If I say something that doesn't make sense, please stop me. I often, because I do this for a living, can just say something that is common, common verbiage for me, but might not be for everyone. So please, if I say something that doesn't make sense, please stop me. I'd love to make sure we're all on the same page. So that's what these
I don't want
buttons-
to stop you every 5 minutes. Just keep talking.
Okay, all right. So that's what these buttons here do. And then we have our channels. So at the top, we have a nice little screen that's going to tell us what that channel is. So right now this says kick, and then we have a select button. When we hit the select button, that's going to be everything up here, which we'll get to. And then we have a solo button, which is going to play just that track into our speakers here, and we'll get to that in a second as
It
well.
won't do that through the mains, it'll only do it through your monitors. Yeah.
Then mute button, and then we have the fader at the very bottom, which is just volume. So while we're kind of talking about these speakers, let me switch this back for us. Because being upstairs sounds so much different than being downstairs, we've added these reference monitors for the sound person.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, and that's going to be controlled with this knob right here. It says phones level. So as we turn it up, we're getting volume here to these speakers. So with the volume on these speakers, it's to some degree choose your own adventure. If you want it to be louder, you can turn these just up louder, and that's not going to really affect too many people. I don't know. I thought it was reasonable today. Was it distracting or too loud, or
No,
if it?
no,
Okay.
yeah, it was fine for me.
So this is going to give you a really good representation of what's coming out of the speakers down there for people standing down there. And so like I was saying, if you hit the solo button, so say we want to listen to the Will's guitar, we can hit solo. And now the only thing coming out of the speakers is that.
Oh, that don't sound half bad. What's the benefit of doing that, Caleb?
Let me turn the house off, just so I don't have to keep yelling every time I want to do that.
That song that guy's from Scotland is, they don't say come with me, come what me. It's like,
Oh, come what?
Come what may.
Come what,
come what
may.
me. Yeah, it's
Come
like,
what may.
I'm like,
What?
Come what may.
So that can be helpful for several reasons. Like if we are, if like today I was using it. Oh, what is the keys player doing right now? So I can hit it. Now I know what he's playing. So when I go back here, I can listen for it. Or if we want to like do an EQ move on a certain thing.
EQ is
Equalizer, yes. Thank you. And we'll get to that on the screen.
so you can bring in all the instruments, even the drums, if you want to.
to here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right now we're listening to, because nothing is soloed, we're just listening to the same mix that they're hearing down there.
and select the drum.
That's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
This
So
was
then
all,
if you don't think somebody's playing or they're not hearing it right, you can just pop it up and
Exactly.
So there it is.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
go back
That's
and
amazing.
say,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I'm not hearing it.
Yeah.
Turn it up.
yeah, and he can talk to us through that too.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
So
nice.
up
I'm
this
not
section
yelling
up here,
down
there is a talk A button. So when you push and hold that, this microphone, you can talk to the band. So
Well, your
it'll
mic's
go
not
to
on.
their ears.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly like that. Hey,
Yeah.
hey, your guitar's not plugged in. You're good,
Yeah.
which happens to me often. I don't flip the guitar switch on.
Yeah.
oh, I love it.
Yeah, so that's what this microphone is here for, which is just helpful to use because now the band, everyone is wearing essentially earplugs all the time. And so to be able to communicate with them rather than just yelling, because even if you're just wanting to communicate, yelling.
And it's
usually
annoying to take
is-
these out and in all the time.
Yeah. Even if you're just wanting to have a conversation, yelling is usually sets a mood, you know. So I can talk normally into this microphone and the whole band can hear me just fine.
And nobody else can hear you over here. You're just like,
Exactly.
hey, well, plug in your guitar.
Yep.
Hey,
Exactly.
Will, you stink.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that.
Sing louder,
I'm
Will.
about to beat you, Will.
I'm muting you because you're so bad.
Get off the stage.
And you
All
got
right.
talk B is for Will only. right?
Yes, talk B as well only.
Yeah, if you ever want to talk bad about the band to me, just
So the A is for everybody and B is for, okay.
That would be like if there's something to let you know that you don't really need to let the other band know because maybe it could cause some like a distraction, but I do need to know.
Yeah.
That would be why you would
Like,
use that.
hey, David just came in the booth and said we need to play another song, or I don't know. That probably doesn't happen very often, but
Yeah,
you can
so-
tell. That would probably be something you want to tell the whole band. But like earlier, I accidentally muted Will's guitar and forgot to unmute it.
Oh,
I could
right.
tell he was like looking around.
And I was like, where is it?
So I talked. I was like, hey, that was my bad. It's unmuted now.
Yeah, so he
Um,
just talked to me because it
yeah.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
We would do that individually for everybody, but that would be
Yeah, there's
impossible.
definitely instances where we need to communicate with somebody down there that we haven't been able to.
Right, yeah.
We're
With
busy.
everybody, yeah. Yeah. So this, that's going to be a really great addition to your guys' system. So now let's look at our nice screen here. Like I said earlier, whatever channel is selected is what is going to show on the screen and what all of these parameters are going to change. So let's just select Will's guitar as he's here. Within our screen, it's a touch screen, which is cool. On the left, this is going to give us lots of options for this channel. We won't dive too deep into all of these because a lot of this is kind of stuff that as you kind of do it more, you learn and understand it, and everything's set up pretty well that you shouldn't have to dive too far into much of this, but just so we all kind of know what's going on. So this is going to be like on analog boards, sound boards, maybe you've seen like there are a bunch of knobs on them all the way up for each channel. That's very similar to what this is. So for each channel, we get lots of different options for what we want to do with that channel. So this is the equalizer, which I was talking about earlier. So like in your vehicle, you probably have like a little knob that says low, and maybe mid and high, and that's going to turn up or down the low, mid, and high frequencies. You have that on this board as well, but just to a higher degree of what you can change.
Is that touchscreen?
This is touchscreen, yeah.
So you can bring that up just like that, okay,
Yep.
good.
Where's Jason at?
Yep. So we can. You wouldn't want to do that, live by any means, but
Good.
you can,
It's like,
Well, I think it'd be an interesting
effect,
gain somebody's attention.
Yes. So that's the equalizer. Then next we have a compressor. And so what this is going to do is going to automatically turn something down if it gets too loud.
You were using that a lot this morning.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
Is that something that the sound guy's gonna need to constantly be on top of?
Not really. Once it kind of gets dialed in, they're usually pretty good.
Because you were making a lot of changes. I was
Yes,
watching you and
yeah.
watching what you were doing.
Yeah.
You were just trying to get hopefully a final.
Right. Yeah.
Setting.
So I'm going to mix this evening, which this evening will be different. So I will save everything I've done so far, and then you can recall it every single morning, and you can come back right to this instance in time. But yeah, a lot of this stuff, once it gets set, you shouldn't have to play with it too much. I'm trying to find something like a vocal.
And you were using that one this morning too.
Yes. So this is another compressor. It just looks different. This is Will's vocal.
Down broken roads, you're still my rock, my
So
hope remains.
there's this orange light here on each channel. When that's lit up, that means the compressor is activated. That's what that means. So we won't dive too far into that.
Don't change Will's compressor.
And then you have where do you want this channel to go? That's all set. And the very bottom one is for the in-ear monitor mixes. But there's an easier way to get to that, which we can do in a moment.
We're not going to be needing that very much, are we?
No, it shouldn't, because the band has the ability to mix their own, which is great. So you shouldn't have to do it very frequently.
And I saw them changing it down
Yes.
there this morning
Yep,
on
yep.
the first service.
But sometimes it's nice to be like, hey Caleb,
Yeah.
during practice, can you just do this one thing really quickly?
I saw Amy changing hers monitor a little bit this morning.
Yeah. Feeling good so far?
Yeah. I am.
So now we have this little section. This is going to be very similar to here. We have, again, buttons that we can assign to different layers. And so user 1, I think on both is probably going to where you're going to want to kind of be.
Most of
And
the
that's
time.
going to get you 90% of what you're going to need to access. So there's user 1 here and user 1.
Yeah, and we just have some groups selected on there, and then some of the effect buses for
Here.
user 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So like this very first one here, this is a DCA group of the drums. So if we hit solo on it, so here, just the drums. And then we have, this is the instrument DCA, so the rest of the instruments are here.
Today we only had 2 others.
Right, yeah. Then we have a vocal DCA.
Hey, come what may.
You can see all 3 voices there, yeah.
And so, as we're listening to the whole mix, I can grab this DCA and pull it out, and now all of the instruments have been turned down with the instrument DCA. You can same with the vocals. So that's helpful, like when you're, mixing. I need more of all of the vocals, that's where you can come here and turn all of the vocals up or down. Or, hey, the instruments are too loud, I can turn down all of the instruments. Or the whole drum set needs to come down, that sort of thing. And all those are just on the single one faders.
All good?
Okay, the section right in between those two sections again is
Right here? This one?
the middle section, the middle four.
Yeah, so this is going to be tied to over here. So as you're changing this layer, these are changing as well.
Yeah, so it's a bank of 12, and then a bank of 8, and then a bank of 4.
Yeah.
So there's 3 sections on the board.
So these ones are tied to this layer. So as I'm
Right, but
changing.
that, okay, and that's, in that, what is in that center, so I can't see what's.
Yeah,
up.
so depending on what layer you're on is going to depend on what's showing here. So right now, we have tracks DCA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, remember that's the place where you have user 1 and user 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll typically be on those 90% of the time.
Yeah,
that's what he said.
yeah, that's fine. Okay.
And then we have our 3 vocalists right there.
Yep, okay. That's where the vocalists are, okay.
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Is Steve still part of our group? Or?
Not right now.
Okay.
Now we have this section here. We have more fun buttons. These buttons that are flashing are the tap tempo for the delay effect. So if you can think and remember to do it, you
Every
can tap that in
song
every
you'll want
song.
to
Yeah.
want to find the tempo. So the Lord is my shepherd,
so-
I shall not. And then you just tap that. And then once you do that, it'll be on tempo for the rest of the song. Does that make sense?
You have to hit both of those buttons or just one?
You can do one at a time
Yeah.
if you wanted.
Yeah. I was just doing 2 fingers and doing both at the same time.
How many
Yeah.
times do you have to hit it?
Twice, technically.
Yeah, you only have to do it twice. I like to do it a few times just so that way it gets closer. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get to the beat.
Yeah.
So you can hear the tempo there, you can keep the tempo that way then, right? You down
No,
there?
that's for the effects. So that the effects stay on beat with the tempo.
Oh, yeah,
So we
yeah,
have
The click is coming through something else we'll talk about, and that's what we're talking about for you guys here in like a minute or two.
The click. We're part of the click.
Yeah, you're part of the
What is
click.
Yeah, we've got our own click.
That's it, exactly. That's funny. So we're hurting. We need people to run the board. We don't have, what, 2 people?
Yeah, we got 2 people, and me, on certain Sundays that I'll have somebody else lead worship, and I'll come in and mix.
So this is we're listening
So yeah,
now.
so for the next 3 months, I've scheduled these 2 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
We're listening just to now the vocal delay effect. So that's not in time. It doesn't sound good.
Right.
Are you supposed to hit it that
I do.
hard? I was just
yeah,
asking.
you don't have to.
Because
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble. I mean,
Yeah, no.
Don't break it.
The reason I do that is because I'm not trying to like gently push the button. Because if I just try and gently push the button, I don't always hit it. Then like it gets off.
So
and
you're making sure you do hit it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're engineered to be able to handle blunt force trauma, right?
Yeah.
How does it we do that?
Don't punch it.
At the start of each song. Yeah. So that's going to be what these flashing lights are. Now there also is this number right here that says 1. If you press this up page, it's going to say 2, and now these buttons do something different.
I don't think we've set any of those up. Have you? Did
I
you?
set
Oh,
some
you
up,
did. Okay.
yeah. And so this screen right here is going to tell us what these buttons now do. So right now it says lead IEM for in-ear monitor. So if I go to page 2 and press this button, I'm now looking at Will's in-ear monitor mix.
Oh.
So if he needs something changed,
So instead of doing a sins on fader, just
exactly
selecting
it's
that.
one
Okay.
button. Yeah. Now I can come here and say
I
he
just
wants,
learned that the
more or less of click. I can, drop it down or bring it up. And
So
that'll
you have
change it
all of
there.
them labeled on there?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's got lead, which is me, the bass, the drum, the keys. So like in a scenario where, like, let's say Dan was like, hey, I don't want to mess with this right now because we're playing, but hey, Caleb, just throw in some more bass, then you just select, you find